What's up, everybody? You're very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda on the 32nd anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster. So obviously we want to take a moment at the start of the stream just to commemorate, just to remember those who lost their lives, those who went to a football game and never came home. So I'm sure you share my sentiments, ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching around the world right now. Our thoughts, prayers and best wishes are, of course, with anybody associated with the football club, anybody who suffered any loss at that day, and to Liverpool fans everywhere. This is a day that obviously we have to mark, we always do remember, and we'll never forget. So to those 96 people that went to a football game and never came home, you know, may they be up there with the angels. And it's always a tough day, isn't it? It's always a tough day, ladies and gents, but it's a day that we have to keep remembering, and a day that we have to keep marking, and the club do so, of course, every year, even during these difficult times with COVID. So, as always, our love and best wishes to everybody associated with the football club, and may they rest in peace. And of course, yeah, it's a tough day, folks, on the back as well of a loss to Real Madrid in the Champions League, but it's not all negatives with regards to the footballing side of things, because you know, we're going to have the conversation tonight around should we now break up the front three. Jamie Carragher has been quoted as saying he thinks it's time for Liverpool to maybe break up that front three. A front three that's been so good to us. Over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And it's a difficult conversation to have, but one that I've been saying for a while now. I think we as Liverpool fans need to have a grown-up conversation around. I also want your help, ladies and gentlemen. So I like to do little 8 to 12 minute videos as well to give you guys some daytime content. So if you're watching this later on or in the live chat right now and there's any specific topic that you'd like me to pre-record a video around, as always, this is your channel, folks. Let me know what you'd like me to do and I'll do my best to record those videos for you. I'll be recording one tonight as soon as I finish this stream. So any suggestions or anything you'd like me to cover, as always, ladies and gents, please just let me know. Right, how are we? How are we feeling after last night, ladies and gents? Because it stings, doesn't it? It hurts, but you know, as I said, there are little positives to be taken from it, and to me those positives are that we were the better team. Madrid deserved to go through. You know, the score doesn't lie. I'm not being anyway salty about that. Madrid came, they did their job, they went through. Congratulations to them and best of luck. But if you're looking at it from our perspective, we did everything but put the ball in the net. We wanted the team to start with intensity. We've seen that. James Milner summed it up in the first minute of the game with that tackle on Karim Benzema. Set the tone for what was a very good hour-long shift from James Milner, and I think he covered more ground in the time he was on the pitch than anybody else, and was that leader that we'd hoped for, that leader I spoke about beforehand. So all we didn't do was put the ball in the net, and this leads us, I suppose, again, not being very not just going off last night, like not just being reactive of the situation, the fact that we missed opportunities last night. It's been something that I think we've been nitpicking at all season with regards to the end product. I mean, we've had lots of games where we've dominated possession, had the ball in the right areas, but aren't testing the keeper enough or scoring enough goals. So, you know, it is time where we do have to address this situation. We know Mohamed Salah is going into the final 2 years of his contract. That situation needs to be resolved this summer. We know Sadio Mane's had an up and down season, as has Roberto Firmino. Some of it's been a little bit glossed over with the signing of Diogo Jota and the goals that he's brought to the club, which is great to see. But, you know, there is always room for improvement at a football club, and it's very difficult for us because we're looking at this group of players that have delivered so much for us, have given us so many amazing nights and days, and, you know, brought us a European Cup, they bought us a Premier League, a Club World Cup, a Super Cup. You don't need me to list through the honours. You know what they've achieved for us, and it's difficult, but football's a ruthless business, and with the summer that's coming up and with the players that could potentially be around, I think we should have a conversation around what would be the right business. Now, this isn't going to be me ramming my opinions down your throat, ladies and gents. I want this to be an open conversation for anybody who's either in the live chat right now or watching this back later on. So if you have anything you want to contribute, please do put it in the comments and I'll try my best to address it later. But right now, folks, what have we got? Do I know who Paddy Murphy is? Yes, mate. I know loads of people want me to do a duet with Paddy Murphy on TikTok, and I will. We've already, like, Paddy's already messaged us or sent the video away, and we'll do it at some point. It's just a really busy time for me at the minute, and I'm trying my best to keep the channel ticking along as we march towards the 100k mark. And as you can see, top corner there, folks, I can let you know exactly we're 11,375 subscribers away. So thank you to everyone that has hit that subscribe button. If you don't put the ball in the net, you're not good enough up front, so change and fast, said Noel. I mean, let's look. 28 goals, I think, off the top of my head, if I'm right, for Mohamed Salah this season, which is a very good goal tally in anyone's book, especially for a winger. That's a very, very good goal tally. So where are we going to get the rest of the goals from, I believe, or what's the conversion rate? There's so many if, ands or buts. I mean, last night, let's be frank about this, Mohamed Salah should have had a hat-trick. Gini Wijnaldum missed an absolute sitter. James Milner made Thibaut Courtois make a very good save. Bobby had one shot, I think, that was saved by the keeper's legs. But other than that, we didn't put the ball in the net. And we kept them out. Our defence was pretty solid. Alisson had to make one brilliant double save when Vinicius Jr. was through on goal. He came out, made himself big, blocked that, and then got up quickly and dived at the feet of Karim Benzema very bravely and very well done as well. And, the defence did their bit last night. The midfield, who we'd been very critical of in the first leg, and rightly so. Naby Keita, Gini Wijnaldum didn't really have a great game at all. But last night, I thought the midfield were brilliant. I thought they were excellent, especially Jimmy Milner. Firmino got a lot more control of the game than he did over in Madrid. And, if anything, the substitutions that we all called for, looking to open that Madrid defence, to bring on Thiago and Diogo Jota, if anything, they negatively impacted the game when they came on. And by that I mean we seemed to lose our rhythm. Madrid got back into the game a little bit. Maybe it's because space opened up elsewhere on the pitch. Obviously, dropping Fabinho back to centre-back when you take Kabak off to try and get that front four on and switch to a 4-2-3-1 formation. Maybe that gave Madrid a bit more time on the ball, or the out ball was certainly there for them anyway. So I want to get your thoughts around everything to do with the front three, or front four if you want to call it that way. Philip Hunt, how are you, sir? Said top four is the priority. I think we can do it. Every game is a must win. Chelsea and Leicester have tough final games this summer, big clear out, and we need leaders and fresh faces. Trophies are a must. It is very disappointing after coming off the back of our first Premier League victory, our first league title made for 30 years, and then we go into a season where we go out to domestic cups fairly early, as is kind of the usual for us in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and then we hope for a good Premier League run and a good Champions League run. And come December time, we were sitting top of the Premier League and we thought, all right, even without Virgil van Dijk, even without Joe Gomez, with the other injuries that we've had throughout the season, maybe we can do this. And it's no secret we fell off a cliff. And by the end of January, we were scrapping down around 8th, 9th place. And now we're trying to force our way back up into that top four. And it's not going to be easy, but it is infinitely doable. I mean, a lot of these teams have to play each other, so I agree with Philip. I mean, it's not what we went into the season asking for. It's not what we went into the season hoping for with the squad of players that the manager has, or at least had, at his disposal at the start of the season. But, we can't face into next season with the Europa League. It's just such a drop-off. And I hate to use the phrase, this group of players deserve more, because you get what you deserve in football. Like, the league table doesn't lie, but we're capable of it, and we're capable of putting together a run that will get us into the Champions League. And there's 7 games to go, some tough ones in there. Leeds United away on Monday is going to be no easy game. Manchester United away again at Old Trafford on the 1st of May is not going to be an easy game, but I think we have a more favourable run-in than the likes of Leicester, West Ham and Chelsea, and I think there are 2 spaces up for grabs. So let's have a chat around that, and let's have a chat around the forward situation. And it's very difficult, because when you're looking at, we'll break it down one by one. I think we can leave Diogo Jota out of the conversation because he's new into the club and there's no way the club are moving him on, and why would they? But we look at the other players. We'll start off with the obvious one. The obvious player that we could sell to bring in some money. Not a lot of money, but maybe somebody who could help us, maybe go for the likes of a Patson Daka or a Pedro Neto or somebody like that. I am, of course, talking about Divock Origi. Now, Divock isn't good enough for Liverpool Football Club. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that one. He's certainly the weakest of the available attacking options that Jurgen Klopp has, and it's no secret that we've been open to selling Divock and moving him on for at least a year now, I'd say, but the club haven't received an offer that meets or matches their valuation, and until that's the case, I'm sure we'll have this stalemate again. But Divock Origi isn't good enough, and he's the first player that we should be looking to move on and add better attacking options. So to me, that's the obvious one. Then it starts to get a little bit difficult. Neil Kavanagh sent in the super chat that Jota is better as a centre forward. Don't use him. We didn't use him properly yesterday. You mean out on the left hand side? I agree, mate. He didn't do his best work there. He wasn't able to cause as much havoc. Anyway, getting back to the front three conversation. So it's Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino and Mohamed Salah. Now, where do we start with this? because it's going to be unpalatable to somebody. It's going to be unpalatable to many people. You know, you can look at it in a few different ways. Who hasn't performed this season? Well, I would make an argument to some extent that they all haven't performed. You can look at Mohamed Salah's goals, but does that gloss over some stuff? But then again, you got the goals from Salah. It's 28 goals, which you didn't get from Sadio Mane and Bobby Firmino. Now, we've always said it's unfair to judge Firmino on goals, but at what point do we start saying, well, maybe we need to drop him back and bring in a number 9, or maybe he's one of the players that people think we'd move on? We'd seen him linked with Atletico Madrid. There was talk that if they were to lose Luis Suarez or João Felix, that they'd be interested in signing Bobby Firmino. I think the fee mentioned was somewhere around 65 million, something like that, I think. Then you move over to Sadio Mane, somebody who, to me, offers something different to the others when he's on form. But after suffering COVID and, you know, not having much of a rest, and maybe he has long COVID, we don't know. I mean, nobody's inside Sadio's body, we don't know. But we do know what he is capable of. And at moments last night, we've seen the best of Sadio, particularly in the first half, in tight spaces on that left-hand side, being able to skip past the player at ease, and very unselfishly as well, setting up a couple of chances for Mohamed Salah, which is something that he's been accused of not doing before by Liverpool fans, or at least by some people out there in the footballing world. But his goal return hasn't been great this season. And Sadio Mane, we loves the European goal. You know, you think back to his game against Porto away where he was excellent. So it's a really difficult conversation because we can all make a valid point. So you have to look at it in a number of ways, I think. I mean, who's the most valuable? I think we all know the answer to that one. Mohamed Salah. But he's also the most valuable in the regard of goal return. So are you willing to sacrifice 28, 30 goals a season to cash in your highest asset, to bring in somebody or two people perhaps that may give us more options? It's a very difficult conversation, but the conversation may become a little bit clearer if we look ahead to what's happening this summer. So we know that he has 2 years left on his deal at the end of this season, and the club and himself won't want to go into the last 18 months of his contract without having his future resolved. Now, look at it from the player's point of view. He's going to say, I'm consistently scoring goals. I'm consistently the club's highest scorer. I'm doing my part. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm reliable. I'm fit. I'm available. And all of that is true. So if you're looking from Mohamed Salah's point of view, and Remy Abbas, who isn't really his agent, but more his solicitor that advises him, you're thinking, fair enough. It's absolutely fair for Mohamed Salah and his representative to sit down with the club and demand to be the club's highest paid player and demand a wage increase. I think that's fair. What he's on right now, he could probably earn more elsewhere. Then you move across to Bobby Firmino, somebody who Klopp said if he was in an orchestra he could play 12 different instruments, which is true. But again, where do you get the best from Bobby? And how do we best utilise Bobby in the system that we have? He definitely gives us options. He can certainly link up midfield, but he isn't the number 9. He wears the 9, but we've never looked at him as a 9. More kind of a 9.5. And then Sadio Mane, somebody who, again, can deliver great goals and magical moments, but can also be frustrating. And is there... I read an article from The Athletic, and it was a great article written by Simon Hughes. If you've got The Athletic, I'd urge you to go and read it. And it is about Mohamed Salah's solicitor/representative, Remy Abbas, who really does look and want to look after his player. And I mean that in a very sincere, positive way, because Salah deserves to be the highest paid player at the club. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. But at 29 years of age, going into a situation where we know Liverpool don't like to give long-term contracts to players who are heading for 30 years of age. So we don't usually give them 5-year deals, as an example. It's going to be a very tricky situation. And I hope it's not something that either side feel slated or either side feel like they're being glossed over here, because it's a very difficult balance to have, because Salah is perfectly within his rights to expect a bumper deal. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. But I also wonder if maybe his goal scoring is hiding some other deficiencies, because I don't see the Mohamed Salah that's going past players and scoring goals in that way like he used to. Push aside his penalties, somebody has to take the penalties. It might as well be Mohamed Salah if Milner's not on the pitch. I've no issues with that. So I'm not saying his stats are padded, because since he's been at the football club his numbers speak for themselves. His number of goal contributions, whether it be assists or goals, is phenomenal. But I've always said I'd like to see him put through the centre. But I'm also frustrated at last night, and I know at the very start of this video I said I'm not going to go back to last night, and I'm not going to use that as an example. But if you really want to be up there, and you want to be with the Messis and the Ronaldos of this world, which, you know, he could easily be. I mean, he's not at their level, but he's in the best of the rest kind of scenario with the Neymars and Mbappes and players like that. Well, then you've got to be putting those chances away. You've got to be putting them away. You can't be missing 2, 3, 4 great chances in such a massive game like that. So to me, the easy and obvious answer is to go with Salah. Now, people are going to go, you're an idiot, why would you sell Salah? And I get you, and I agree with you. But if it was to bring in somebody who can get us the same amount of goals maybe, or can offer us a different attacking dimension, and by that you know who I'm talking about, the Kylian Mbappes, the Jadon Sanchos, somebody along those lines, it's always going to be a gamble, because we have Mr. Mo with a guaranteed, let's say, 30 goals a season, which is pretty fair, I think. And then you've got Sadio Mane on the other side, who hasn't been at his best this season, but is also won't be worth anywhere near as much. But it's a conversation that we need to have, and I think Jamie's right. I think they do need to be broken up, but I don't know for the life of me what the best way to do it for the club would be, because, you know, I don't know what player valuations are going to be this summer, because, you know, a lot of clubs are going to be scrambling for those big names. So Harry Kane may be on the move. You're talking about Mbappe on the move. Haaland potentially on the move as well. There's been rumours about Mo being on the move, but again, I'll hand it over to you guys and see how you feel, and then we'll get back to it. Well, somebody said it's true, one of them should leave. Have you seen the Carragher links? Yes, I have, mate. I have seen them. Again, we will be looking at midfielders. We will be looking at bringing in either a Gravenberch or somebody like that. We have to replace Genie when he goes. So that's a given. I think we can agree that we're going to bring in a midfielder. RSH14 said, I want to sell Firmino. Barry Mason said, why do players want so much money? Haven't they got enough? To be fair, like, we have a high wage bill because we've got a lot of players, let's say, on a relatively high wage, but we don't have a David De Gea on 350 grand a week, or we don't have, you know, Sanchez, who was on 450 grand a week or 400 grand a week. Salah is our highest paid player, and of course I don't know the actual wages that he gets, but it's rumoured to be somewhere between 200 and 220,000 pound before bonuses and stuff like that, which, for somebody who is regarded as highly in the football world as Mohamed Salah is, you know, it's not the biggest wage in the world, is it? It's a fairly realistic wage. And again, if we were to go out there and let's say even we sold one of the other front three, so let's say we went with that gentleman's comment a minute ago about selling Bobby Firmino. So let's say we sell Bobby Firmino and we go and fund the deal for, I don't know, let's pick a name out of a hat here, Sancho. Let's say we go with Sancho. And Jadon Sancho comes in, and Jadon Sancho wants 250 grand a week. And, you know, he'll get it elsewhere. We know he would. We know he'd get it at United. We know he'd get it at City. We know he'd get it if he went anywhere else. So let's say he comes in and he signs at 250 grand a week. So you've moved Bobby on. You've got whatever. It covered some of the transfer fee towards Sancho, but you've still used a big chunk of it. And you've also paid your wages. Now it looks like Remy Abbas, in that article around Mohamed Salah, suggests that wherever Mohamed Salah is, he feels he should be, and by he I mean the agent, I don't know Salah's feelings, feels that Mo should be the highest paid player at whatever club he's at. So then immediately you're getting back to the situation now where you've brought somebody in who may be on higher wages than Salah, and Salah's going to rightly say, well hang on, never mind your wage structure here. I'm the highest scorer at the club, have been for the past 3-4 seasons, constantly delivered, brought you guys a Premier League title and a Champions League. I want a pay rise. So then Salah gets bumped up to 270 a week. Where does it stop? And have we really improved things that much? It's such a difficult conversation. Coutinho back on a free. Yeah, that's not going to solve the problem though. You can keep Salah, but Mane or Bobby gotta go, said boy. Craig, talk about selling Salah for the likes of Mbappe, but I completely disagree. What are we achieving by selling a top scorer and keeping Mane or Firmino? The only reason I ever... it's a fair point, K-Dot, and I absolutely take where you're coming on board. The only reason that I might suggest the Salah for Mbappe thing, like, is because one, the contract situation with Salah, and two, he's the one we get the most money for, and three, he's one that's been linked with PSG as their owners looking at a potential superstar replacement they could bring in. Now, of course, I would much rather say sell Divock Origi and go out and get Kylian Mbappe. That would be way better for me. That'd be more palatable for me to say, and it would be more palatable for us as fans to take. But we've got to be realistic about it as well. So if you want the Mbappe, the only option is for Salah, in my opinion. If you don't want Mbappe, then we don't sell Salah. We absolutely renegotiate and we tie him down. And then you look at what you can get for, let's say, a Bobby Firmino. 55, 60 million perhaps. Again, getting on in age. So yeah, then what do you do with that? How do you go about looking to address your front three situation? Would you be happy with a Pedro Neto? Would you be happy with a Rafinha? Or do you want to go out and get a Patson Daka and somebody else? I mean, this is why it's an open conversation, mate. So happy to look at it from every angle. Thiago's on too much money, overrated dross. That's just complete bullshit, mate, to be fair. Thiago came in on a very reasonable fee, hasn't played in the midfield he's been brought in to play with, has had a very unlucky season with the fact that Van Dijk and all behind him have been injured. But at the same time, you know, he hasn't been at his best. I'm not going to sit here and just make excuses for the man. He hasn't been at his best, but overrated dross is absolutely ridiculous thing to say. Right, Mods, there's a few comments here we need to get rid of, like this idiot Ahmed who said Van Dijk sucks, mate. You've set me up for so many jokes there that I could absolutely destroy you with, but I'm allowing this to be a family show today, so we'll move on past your stupidity, which is, by the way, right up here at the very peak level of stupidity. Mane and Bobby could both go for at least 130 million together. Do you know, I think that's realistic, mate, with regards to your valuation. I certainly would say yes. That's a realistic value. Now, I'm not agreeing that they're the ones we should sell because it's a conversation, but I do think, Sappy, seeing that you've got your valuation fairly straight there, I think that's a realistic amount. David Newell said, Mane would be better next season. Remember, form is temporary, class is permanent. I agree. I mean, I love that Sadio Mane gives us that something different. For me, I'd hate to see us sell Sadio. I feel like Sadio's the type of player, along with Salah, by the way, they both look after themselves tremendously well. They both live the lifestyle of a professional athlete, and they're both naturally fit fellas who will go on to play mid to late 30s. I've no doubt about that with both Mo and Mane. They really, and I'm not slagging Bobby here, but these two dudes are just naturally fit fellas, like, that really do live a good lifestyle and look after themselves. You can see it in them. They're both constantly striving to improve, get fitter, and, you know, I've no doubt they'll play long into their 30s. So, give me one name. I mean, let's be frank about this then. Just give me one name in the chat. If you had to break up the front three this summer, outside of Origi, because we all know that he's available to be sold, who would you sell? Just give me a name in the chat and we'll see what the consensus is, and then we'll look at that player and we'll see what we could do maybe from that situation. Does that sound fair? Do you think you get top four? I do actually, mate. Now, Khaled, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, mate, I'd have probably said no, but looking at the fixtures and looking at the way things are panning out, I think we do. Now, it's not going to be easy and we still have to take care. I think if we can get 6 wins from the last 7 games, I think we get into a top 4 place. So Khaled said sell Mane, then TTV Firmino. Another vote there for Firmino. Firmino, Mane, Firmino, Mane, Bobby, Mane, Firmino, Mane, Firmino, Firmino, Shaqiri. Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that as well, but Firmino, Bobby. Right, look, I'm just trying to quickly read through here. I think we can say it's narrowed down to Firmino and Mane anyway by the chat. I mean, I've only seen, I think, one Salah in there so far in the comments. It really does seem to be a split between Mane and Firmino. Now, of those two, if I'm being completely honest, I'd sell Firmino. Of the two that you guys in the chat are mentioning, because it seems to be it's between those two in our open conversation here. So, for me, the reason that I would suggest to sell Firmino in that scenario is because I think Jota can do what Bobby does. So if you want Jota to play through the 9, I think he can be more effective in that position than Bobby. And he can also play a little bit deeper if we need him to, or on either side. So he can also allow us to put Salah through the centre as an example. So I would agree. Of those two players, I have to say yes, Bobby Firmino, even though he's my favourite player at Liverpool, would be the player that I think would be more sensible to sell. Because Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Diogo Jota, and a new arrival, hopefully, for me, the new arrival is somebody who, I'd be greedy. I'd want us to go out there and I want us to get rid of Origi, and I'd want us to go out there and bring in someone like a Patson Daka, and bring in a pacey wide forward. So whether it be somebody with just blistering pace, whether it be somebody... I just want someone who's going to run at a fullback at this point, because I'm getting fed up of these long balls, hoping to win second balls, or hoping to find space in behind when a lot of the time it isn't there. Get me back to the old days where we had Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah just running at defenders and letting them shit themselves. We've seen Vinicius Jr. absolutely tear Trent and all of our left side apart, our right side apart in the first leg. And I'm a sucker for a pacey wide forward, which is why I love Mbappe so much. I love somebody that's that direct, that just gets the ball down and runs at players. And you usually find that it's the younger players you get that with, because as players become more experienced, they become more tactically aware. Obviously, they have a few injuries as well that may hamper their acceleration. So yeah, I mean, what would we do then if we were to move Bobby on? Because I think the figure of 50 to 60 million is probably realistic for Bobby Firmino. Oh, Pulisic, man, in a heartbeat, Jethro. I mean, that would be, for me, if you got Patson Daka and Christian Pulisic, and look, Pulisic's a Chelsea player. The only reason his name's been mentioned is because there's been a few little bits and pieces out there to suggest he may not be happy. Now, I don't think they'd tell him to us, but, that is definitely the type of player who I think would suit me perfectly anyway. Bringing him and a Patson Daka or something like that, and I think, yeah, you're on the way. A Danny Ings comeback is intriguing, Shingo. It really, really is intriguing. Now, we have to take into account his age. We have to take into account that you're still going to be risking an injury situation with him. Is it the style of play a Klopp that hindered him a little bit more with his injuries? But I can see where you're coming from, and I've also said this before as well. I can see a shout for bringing Luis Suarez back for a year or two as well, just to increase competition and give that bit of experience as well, whilst bringing through another younger player like a Neto or a Rafinha or somebody of that ilk. I mean, that's where I am. I mean, I wouldn't mind that if we were to move Firmino on, and if it was for Atletico Madrid, like the articles have suggested, then yeah, let's take Luis Suarez on a free, and yeah, it will cost us a good chunk in wages, but so what? A season or two allowing us then to build up more collateral, look ahead, and see what other players are coming through. I mean, I'd take it. Andre Silva, Mr. CMT says, if Kane moves on, Spurs will buy Ings. That would be some downgrade, though. I mean, with all due respect to Ings, who I love, I mean, going from a £200 million or £150 million player and Harry Kane there, I think that will drive the Spurs fans demented. Do you think Wijnaldum will stay or leave? Leave. Even though there are some murmurings now around them potentially staying, I don't like the fact it drags on this long. The longer it drags on, the more unrealistic it is, but would I be happy if he stayed? Absolutely. I'd be delighted to see him stay. Suarez can teach them how to put the ball in the back of the net, said Wolf, LFC. And again, it might be more palatable there to the likes of Atletico if they're going to lose Suarez this summer. I'm sure that there's something to be done there. Would I take Griezmann? Absolutely not. No. I think he's completely overhyped. I really do. Neto's out until the Euros. Grand. I mean, that won't change anything, I don't think, Keane, mate. The club, if they are tracking Pedro Neto, which I'm sure they're looking at, will have more than enough data available for Neto too. And I'd imagine as well, they take that into account if they were to make an offer. So I don't think that would be a problem. Adama Traore is an interesting one. Another thing I found out about Adama Traore is you've probably seen him greasing or oiling himself up before games a lot. Apparently he's had 6 or 7 dislocated shoulders. So that's an injury that he has, which, a lot of people think that he just greases himself up so he can't get grabbed, which is true, but the reason is because every time he falls on that, I think it's his right shoulder, I think he's had 6 or 7 dislocations of that shoulder alone. So that's something as well that you'd have to consider when looking at the likes of Adama Traore. That and his end product, by the way, which I don't think is there yet. I still don't see enough consistency in Adama Traore to say that I'd be happy if he became a Liverpool player. Ousmane Dembele, you know, that one would have me really on the fence. Apart from his injury record, which hasn't, he had a serious injury that kept him out for a while. Um, he has a bit of a disciplinary background, but he seems to be settling down as he ages a bit and, settles into life as a well-known superstar footballer. I think it would be interesting, but it doesn't seem like a Liverpool type move to me unless there was something going the other way, if you get me. But it's interesting. Sander Berg is a midfielder. Brandon, completely. Somebody who have been linked with, somebody who Spurs has been linked with as well, by the way, and somebody who Sheffield United say that they're going to want to make a profit on, even if they do well. It looks like they are going down. What do you think about Memphis Depay for free? No, thanks. No. He's too much of a diva for my liking. And as far as I'm aware, he's off to Barcelona anyway. I think, Barcelona are looking to be free transfer FC this summer by the looks of things. We need Grealish as a Wijnaldum replacement. We don't have the money to sign Jack Grealish. Let's be honest about it. Liverpool, they're going to want over £100 million for Jack Grealish. And they're perfectly within the rights to ask for it. But we're not going to pay it. There's not a hope in hell Liverpool pay that much money for Grealish when you can get as good a player on the continent for probably half the price. Would I take Jamie Vardy? No, I'd much rather bring Luis Suarez back. Plus Vardy, why would he leave Leicester City? I mean, he's a Leicester City legend and he'll finish his career there, I think. Jude Bellingham, look, Tyler, that's a player who I think any club in Europe or any fan base in Europe would bite your hand off. I mean, Dortmund have been sensational in some of the acquisitions that they've made, players they brought in. Jadon Sancho, they took him from Manchester City, brought him in, gave him the opportunity to play a lot of first team football. He's repaid that by becoming a superstar. Jude Bellingham, they took him from Birmingham City when the likes of Manchester United and I think every other club in England were trying to get Bellingham. And again, it looks like he made the right decision for his career because he's gone to Dortmund and again shone on the biggest level. Got himself a goal again last night against Manchester City. Should have had a goal in the first leg of that tie and I think has been remarkable for a player of his age. So again, yeah, I think Jude Bellingham will be amazing, but if I'm advising Jude Bellingham, I tell him to stay put for another season at Dortmund. João Felix for Firmino, said Ben Murphy. It's just the price, mate. I mean, I don't would Atleti be willing to take a loss on the astronomical amount of money that they paid for João Felix when they brought him in? Cameron said Suarez all day long, which I agree with. I mean, Suarez back for a year or two, no problem with that whatsoever. Quincy Promes has absolutely died a death, mate. Is nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good. And by died a death, I don't mean actually. Of course, the chap's still alive and well. I mean, no. Would I sell Mane and Firmino for Mbappe? I think we'd still be short. And I mean, I suppose you could look at Harvey Elliott and make an argument as to maybe Harvey Elliott could fill a little bit of a void there, but I think we're still going to need another forward, so maybe if you were to sell Origi and you brought in a Patson Daka or something, perhaps, but it's losing two players for one still, it leaves you short in the squad. Stop being unrealistic. If you're talking to me, mate, fuck off, I'll do whatever I want, it's my channel. If you don't like it, piss off, it's as simple as that. And don't be shouting with your capital letters, mate, or you'll very quickly find yourself kicked out of the channel. So show some respect to us and everybody else in here, mate, or fuck off, as I said, one or the other. Would I take Ollie Watkins? No, I wouldn't. For a couple of reasons. One, I don't think he's good enough. And two, again, a player Aston Villa brought in and paid top dollar for. They're not going to want to sell him, and if they do sell him, you're going to have to pay the overpriced fee because he's English. And I think, again, you can look to the continent and find better players there. Is Canade a done deal? In the world of football, mate, nothing is a done deal. But as close to something... How do I phrase this? I would say it's more likely to happen than not happen. That's about as far as I'll commit on that, mate. But Nothing from what I've been told, nothing from any of the journalists that friends of ours have been told has changed on that one. So I would say it's very realistic. Sell one of them and sign Rafinha. That's if Leeds are willing to play ball on Rafinha and if Rafinha wants to move. Because I actually read something. He's definitely a player we've looked at, 100%. But he's also Leeds' record transfer that they brought in for, I think, around 18 million quid, something like that, if my memory's right. And I've read something with him that he said he's happy in Leeds and he wouldn't mind staying there for another season. But again, you know, if a club the size of Liverpool were to come in, maybe he changed his mind. Ryan Schultz, how are you, mate? Thank you for the super chat. Said, tough loss, Craig. Better play all. Good luck in the Premier League. Class act, mate. Thank you. And look, you guys in the semi-final as well against PSG. I mean, what a two legs that's going to be. And, you know, I fancy Chelsea to turn over Real Madrid, actually, folks. I don't think that Real Madrid side are any great shakes. I really don't. I know that sounds a bit silly since they knocked us out, but they knocked us out because of the first 45 minutes of Madrid and how awful we were and because we didn't put the ball in the back of the net. So I think if Chelsea get their tactics right with Tuchel, I think they can beat Real Madrid and make their way to the final. I really, really do. I actually make them favourites in that tie to go through. Ivan Toney is a really, really interesting one, Neil. Obviously, top scorer in the Championship, doing really well, worked his way up through the divisions. Somebody that seems to have everything: height, pace, power, ability to finish in the air with his feet. When we spoke to Darren McAnthony, the Peterborough chairman, he gave a glowing reference of Ivan Toney in his time at Peterborough. And he's gone on, as I said, to do really good things, but it's a huge gamble, isn't it? I mean, a huge gamble to be moving somebody like Firmino or Mane or Salah on to bring in an Ivan Toney. I mean, it will be a big gamble, mate. But his numbers are excellent. But you know, has he got a touch of the how do I want to say here? Like the what's the guy's name from Norwich? Timo Pukki's about him. Do you know what I mean? Is that his level? I guess he won't know till he gets challenged in the Premier League. I'm sure if they don't come up this season, somebody will certainly take a chance on Ivan Toney. I mean, even if it's somebody like a Southampton or somebody will definitely look at that lad because his numbers are just excellent. Do I think Harvey Elliott is ready to play as a bench player? I think what will happen with Harvey Elliott is that he'll come back to pre-season with Liverpool. He'll get the pre-season camp. He'll play in a couple of friendlies. He'll sit down with Klopp and they'll map out a plan. And whether that plan is, look, you'll play X, Y and Z, you'll play in the League Cup, you'll play in the FA Cup, and you'll be part of the matchday squad, and you may make 15 to 20 appearances throughout the season. Or whether it's, let's look at maybe a Leeds or a Southampton or a good loan move somewhere in the Premier League for you. It's a difficult one because I think he's right on the cusp. So you could make a very valid argument for him staying around the first team and learning and training with those boys week in and week out and continuing his progression and maybe getting some one-on-one coaching as well. But you could also make the argument that a loan move would be understandable. I'd like to see him kept. I would, because I love the petulance of youth. I love that ability to just try the stuff that only kids do. You know, that mad stuff that I don't give a shit about your reputation kind of stuff. Would I take Carragher at Liverpool? I'm always worried with players coming in from France. I don't know why, but I'm always worried about it. Okay, let me just get rid of this moron. Do you think we should sell Firmino and Origi to get a critical striker like Haaland? Well, you wouldn't be getting anywhere near the money to buy Haaland, mate, by selling Firmino and Origi. But I get where you're coming from, Ali Khan. I don't think that Haaland has any... I don't think Haaland's coming near Liverpool. Let's be very frank about this. I've already heard his agent come out and say things like he wants him to be the first £1 million a week footballer. You know, they've done the tour of Europe, seeing who will pay the most money for him. And then you have Dortmund saying that, and even you have his agent saying that, Mino Raiola coming out and saying that after speaking with Michael Zorc, who's the Dortmund CEO or sporting director. And he said that they don't want to sell him this year. They're happy to keep him for another season, and the release clause is €75 million next summer, and if somebody pays that, somebody pays that. So I would imagine it's going to take a whole lot of money a ridiculous amount of wages and a nice big dirty fat check for Mina Raiola for Haaland to come anywhere. So I don't think there's any chance we're going to sign Haaland. Custard Berry Tart, which is making me hungry and also a cool name. Said, sell Bobby, look at somebody like Lautaro Martinez. Yeah, it's a good show. I mean, he had been linked with the big Spanish clubs, but again, Inter are a club that want to move in the right direction, have good financial backing, look like that they're going to win Serie A this year. We'll be back in the Champions League next year. Lukaku and him have struck up an amazing partnership, so you would probably have to pay a lot of money. But you are right, it is a very good shout and it's a good calibre of footballer and somebody who I would have no issues whatsoever with us looking at. Craig, can we discuss about Minamino? Yeah, absolutely. Good shout that, mate. What? I can't see a future. I can't see a future for Minamino. And it's not because I don't think he's good enough. It's because the thought process behind putting him out on loan still baffles me. When we were short of so many bodies and creative options, you would have imagined that keeping him around for moments like the 2 legs against Real Madrid, for games where we need to empty the bench and try and get that attacking goal, that would have been perfect for him. But he moved on to Southampton. There's been talk of interest from Spain. I think Sevilla have been linked with an offer or an interest certainly in Takumi Minamino. And no matter what happens, if Liverpool do cash in the summer, I think they'll make a profit because we paid, what, 7.25 from something like that? By Vinicius. I have to say, over the 2 legs, mate, that lad, I always knew he was a player. Now, like, I really don't watch a lot of Madrid games because I'm far more of a Barca person, but I have to say, Graham Hunter's been telling me for a long time about Vinicius Junior and telling me, bigging him up and bigging him up and bigging him up. And, who am I to doubt Graham Hunter's knowledge of Spanish football? But in that first leg particularly, I was blown away by how good the kid was. So I would imagine that Real Madrid will move heaven and earth to make sure he stays there. Would I take Coutinho back? No, not a chance in hell. For me, again, other people might give you a different opinion. What about Timo Werner? I think he will settle under Tuchel. And I think, we brought Jota in because Werner went to Chelsea. And I think it's very unfair to be critical of any player. That's why I defend Thiago, by the way, so much. I always like to give a player a year to settle in. Player coming from a different league. Even if, in theory the style should suit. I think it's always fair to give somebody a season to bed in. So I don't want to stick the boot in on Timo Werner because I think he will come good. I think he is a good enough footballer that something will click and he'll eventually become the player that we all believe he could become. Would I move on Chamberlain? Yes, I would. Hasn't affected us enough in a positive form outside of that run to the Champions League in Kiev. Lots of niggly injuries. Not the same Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's dynamic in his runs and is shooting from outside the box. It just doesn't seem like the same lad to me. So I would move Oxlade-Chamberlain on if the right offer came in. I do really think he's a great lad to have around the club. Brilliant with social media. I'm sure he's great fun around the dressing room and seems like a very likeable guy. But football's rootless, and do I think we could improve on him? Yes. I want more players who are going to be reliable and battle-hardened and ready for the rigours of Premier League football. Would I welcome Danny Ings back to Anfield? Yes, I would. Same with Luis Suarez. Either of those two, I'd have no problem coming back in. Got to give Craig credit on not being a biased Liverpool fan. Thank you. I like give my honest opinions, mate. So cheers, appreciate that. If PSG want Mane and accept an Mbappe Mane plus 20 swap deal, would you do it, Craig? Of course I'd do it, but they wouldn't do it. Mbappe will probably go for, I reckon, 120 to 150. Something like that this summer. So what are we saying Mane's worth? Probably 80? Maybe, something like that. So maybe 40 mil. But it seems like the word coming out of PSG is that Pochettino wants Kane, but the PSG board seem to prefer the idea of Salah if they were to lose Kylian Mbappe, who they will fight tooth and nail to try and keep at the club. Particularly if they go on to another Champions League final and he can see that maybe he can fulfill those ambitions, or maybe he'll use it the other way to say, well, I've done it here now, I want to go do it elsewhere. I don't know. That's up to Kylian Mbappe and his representatives, but you still have the big wage thing to get over there as well. Although, look, I don't think Mane's on a whole lot less than Salah, and I made the argument that if you move Salah on, you're freeing up a big chunk of wages, so you could again make that argument. Would you sell Naby Keita? Now that is... Oh, sorry. Post Dortmund, I want Kane City over Haaland, said Ryan. Thank you for the super chat, mate. That's interesting. And look, yeah, you would have had a good look at him, Ryan, I suppose, over the 2 legs. But I'll be very happy if you don't sign Haaland, Ryan. Put it that way. Would I give Oxlade-Chamberlain a loan like Lingard? No. No. Because what is he now? 27, 28? So another season that we don't see anything from him and don't see any financial benefit from it, really. No, not for me. I'd rather, if we were to look to move him on, just move him on. I've already covered the Suarez thing, mate. Yes, I would absolutely have him back on a free, even if it was high wages for a year or two. And I'm normally against players coming back to football clubs. How much money do you think we could raise from the sales of Firmino, Origi, Shaqiri, Minamino, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Wilson? Right, let me just try and tot them up in my head. About 135 to 140 million, I'd guess. Captain trips. And of the players you've listed there, I can understand every single name on the list, mate. I think there's a valid argument for every name you put on that list. So, rough guesstimation, 135, 140. Luis Suarez, bit of a snake. Yeah, but needs must, mate. And sure, look, did we get Van Dijk? You could make the argument that some of the players we've brought in have done the same to other clubs, by the way, before they've come to us. So, Dejan Lovren, Adam Lallana, Virgil van Dijk. You know, we can make these arguments as well. There's 2 sides to this coin. Other clubs will think players have done the same to join us, and we'll think players have done the same to leave us and go elsewhere. Would I have Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Liverpool? I don't know if he... It's a difficult one. I mean, I rate him, and he's having an excellent season. And he's certainly... I've yet to see a centre-forward who has the leap that he has. By God, that lad can leap up. And he's excellent in the air. He's got pace. He's powerful. Do you know what? I probably would, mate. Yeah, I probably would. He's improving season on season as well. Working, of course, with an excellent manager in Carlo Ancelotti. Hey Craig, Barca fan, unlucky versus Real last night. I'm as disappointed as Liverpool fans. I don't think you are, mate. I mean, I appreciate where you're coming from, but God almighty, mate, I struggled last night after that game. Really, really struggled because we did everything but put the ball in the net. If we had won that game 3-0, nobody could have argued. The amount of crosses we spam, he'd be sent. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm baffled by these crosses, particularly with Robbo at times. We're putting in crosses to who? Unless it's to win the second balls on drop down, but like, you know, Jota's capable, as Trent has shown. If you put it right on a sixpence, Diogo Jota's capable of putting his head in the ball and putting it in the net, and Mane's not afraid of a header either. But yeah, it's not how we get the best out of our forwards, in my opinion. Have you heard about Sanchez rumours? I did, mate, yes. Which is why I brought him up a little bit in conversation today. I'm still trying to find out if there's any legs to those rumours. And of course, I will let you guys know in our next stream, which will be tomorrow. So, look, I'm going to call that one a night, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this back later on, I'd love to know your thoughts on everything that we've spoken about today. I'd love to know which one, if any, of the front 3, and I say front 3 because we're not going to move Jota on, that you'd like to see Liverpool maybe cash in on, or do you think that we need to keep them all and add to one of the front 3? Thank you so much as always, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. I'll be back tomorrow as well. I'll be recording a video later on tonight. And I want your thoughts on little videos that you'd like me to pre-record and put up as well, because I'm going to do a lot more 8 to 12 minute videos. So if there's any topic that you'd like to see me cover or talk about, please let me know in the comment section after this goes live. So I'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep an eye out for them. I'll put them onto the list of videos. I'm going to record one about Mohamed Salah right now when I finish this. That should be out over the coming few days. Lots of stuff coming up on the channel. Of course, please do hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video as well. And most importantly, stay safe, stay well. Lots of love to you all. Thank you.